It's Monday, March 9th. This is CTV at 6. Here's what's making news tonight. For the third time in a week, fuel prices will rise in one maritime province. NB Power justifies its need to raise rates and why it must do it now.
It's been a pleasant start to the week, but the weather turns icy for many Wednesday into Thursday.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good evening. Well, if it seems like we've been saying this a lot, it's because we have. So once again, if you need to fill up, do it by midnight. The price of fuel is almost certain to go up tonight, sparked by a move by the Energy Board to trigger the interrupter clause. CTV's Emma Convey is at one gas station right now, and I suspect things will get rather busy, Emma.
That's right, Todd. You can kind of already see things are picking up a few off and on lineups already, and I presume things will get much busier as word gets out that at midnight tonight, prices will likely increase again, the third time, I should add, in the last week here in Nova Scotia. Now, this is because the Nova Scotia Energy Board has announced it will use the interrupter clause at midnight. They do that any time there is a sudden or significant shift in the price of a barrel of oil. Motorists are getting used to paying more at the pumps. Two price increases last week totaled about 15 cents more a litre. Right now, the price of gasoline is sitting in Halifax at currently 152.6 cents per litre. But tomorrow, people will likely be paying a little bit more than that. Now, one thing to note is that this interrupter clause does not impact the price of diesel, but that doesn't change the fact that it did go up 14.9 cents over the weekend, Todd. And this all comes after the global oil price rise or real increase that we're seeing due to the war in the Middle East.
Yeah, Emma, and Iran has closed the Strait of Hormuz. That will likely put more pressure on prices. We'll have more on that later in the show. Emma Convey starting us off in Halifax. Thank you. A large family is homeless tonight after their home north of Moncton city limits was destroyed by fire today. Dozens of firefighters from Moncton, Dieppe, and Riverview were called to a home in the community of Stylesville around the noon hour. A member of the Moncton Fire Department told CTV News the first floor collapsed into the basement of the home and that it is a total loss. There were no injuries. A neighbor says there were 7 people living there, including 5 children.
We're not sure yet what happened. I just happened to look. I heard the sirens come and looked out the window and I seen the house was on fire. So we're all still curious of what happened. I guess it's a shock, especially when you got good neighbors like this. And they're from Syria, the best people you could have for neighbors.
The fire was under control by mid-afternoon, and the cause remains under investigation at this hour. Additional security was needed at Georges Dumont Hospital in Moncton today after a report of threats were made. The Vitalité Health Network says the additional security measures were needed at the front entrance following an incident. The RCMP responded to a report of threats made towards staff at the hospital around 9 in the morning. When police arrived, they determined the person who had made the threats had left, and there was no ongoing threat to staff or the public. The hospital returned to normal operations in the early afternoon. It's probably the busiest car wash in New Brunswick. Vehicles in Fredericton are being hosed down if they drove through a yellow-orange irritant that covered a road after a chemical spill late last week. CTV's Avery McRae reports that many questions remain.
Lather, rinse, repeat. It's day 3 of cars being scrubbed clean of a yellowy-orange chemical they may have driven through late last week.
It seems kind of strange that it's completely unknown as to what's happened, but that at least the city and the province are taking actions to at least do the cleanup.
On Wednesday, a chemical spill occurred along a near 14-kilometer stretch of highway in Fredericton with around 1,000 liters of the chemical spilled. The province says it was made aware of the situation Thursday, but didn't close the impacted stretch of highway until Friday afternoon.
I think it was a bit late letting people find out about it. We ran into it on Friday, Never really heard anything about it until likely Sunday morning.
Initial tests of the substance found traces of sodium carbonate, sodium hydroxide, and chromium, which New Brunswick EMO says could be harmful. EMO remains at level 2, partial activation, with most remediation work appearing to have been completed, putting the main focus today on getting any vehicles that had driven through the irritant clean to avoid risk to themselves and the environment. People have been waiting for a wash anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half today, with some telling CTV News the wait times yesterday for a scrub were nearly 3 hours.
Typical government. Like here, for the car wash, they got 2 people down there washing cars. And there's a lineup you can see. They can't get organized for anything.
Green Party leader and local MLA David Kuhn says it was quite a time lag getting the information to the public, which he says puts a spotlight on the entire chemical spill reporting system in the province.
It needs to be beefed up. The whole process is taking too long. You know, we don't see the kind of springing into action that people would expect when you find a curry-colored line spreading for kilometers along a major highway in New Brunswick.
The province has confirmed the spill has not impacted Fredericton's drinking water system and don't expect a problem with nearby wells. Avery McRae, CTV News, Fredericton.
And Avery tells us that car wash will remain in place tomorrow. If you're in Fredericton and you haven't had your vehicle hosed down yet, that will be available tomorrow. Halifax water customers still can't use the utilities online portal. It remains down after the system was hacked. CTV's Hafsa Arif is in the news center. Hafsa, what more can you tell us about this?
Well, Todd, for those who don't know, Halifax Water's Customer Connect portal is where residents manage their water accounts, and the utility says it's continuing to investigate this hack and is working with the outside vendor that owns and operates the platform. Halifax Water first announced the issue late Friday afternoon, saying it shut down the portal while it investigates the breach. Officials say this investigation is focused on determining what information may have been accessible and to what extent. However, customers can still...
It is a concern to Nova Scotians, of course, when you hear about a privacy breach or a cyber event. So Halifax Water did reach out to the department, as I am aware that they've reached out to the appropriate authorities on Friday. So my team and myself were informed of the event on Friday.
There's between 200 and 500 new vulnerabilities discovered every single week. And most of the time, these organizations are only doing an audit once a year. So there'd be tens of thousands of new vulnerabilities discovered by the time they're ready to do their audit again.
Cybersecurity experts say public utilities can be vulnerable targets. Halifax Mayor Andy Fillmore says the municipality's other online systems are not affected and expects council to ask the utility questions about the incident. Halifax Water insists the portal will remain closed while its investigation continues, and until then, the system is confirmed to be secure. Todd.
All right. CTV's Hafsa Arif in the news center for us this evening. NB Power appeared before the energy regulator today with hands out. The utility wants approval to hike rates nearly 5%, and it wants to start, well, rather soon. CTV's Nick Moore tells us how that went.
NB Power wanted utility rates to increase in April instead of this summer. The Energy and Utilities Board has denied that application for an interim rate increase.
An interim rate order is an extraordinary remedy, and it is not intended to shield utilities from the known or reasonably foreseeable consequences of their own business decisions.
In a statement today, NB Power says it is disappointed with that decision. In January, the utility said any delay would significantly impact revenue and the corporation's ability to make critical investments or improve its financial health. The EUB decision kicked off the first day of hearings for a 4.75% rate increase in 2026-27.
There will be a future of rate increase requirements over an extended period of time.
NB Power was asked today how it's been monitoring 3 years of rate increases at 23% and the effect it's been having on customers being able to make ends meet. The utility says it's been tracking calls to its customer care center and the number of late repayment plans that have been started.
Those would be inputs that would help us inform and understand how our rate increases are impacting people's ability to pay.
NB Power management said several times during today's hearing that NB Power rates are some of the lowest in Canada, only behind Newfoundland and Labrador and Quebec.
Well, we acknowledge the relatively modest rates of NB Power, but at the same time point out that New Brunswick has the second lowest median family income on record, along with personal incomes.
The Human Development Council and the New Brunswick Coalition of Persons with Disabilities were two interveners at today's hearing. Both organizations are part of the Utilities Vulnerable Populations Committee, which was an EUB stipulation for NB Power getting its rate increase last year.
We need more people on here that actually live this every day. I'm sorry, it's sort of like having you explain to me affordability when your salary is not one that is ever really going to worry about affordability.
The hearings will continue tomorrow. Nick Moore, CTV News, St. John.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
We now know the name of the woman whose body was found in a Moncton garbage bin last month. Police in New Brunswick have identified the victim as 39-year-old Melissa Price. Her body was discovered inside a garbage bin at the bottom of a Moncton street. That was on February 15th. Last week, a homeless advocate who knew the victim urged the RCMP to release more details of the investigation.
She was a good person. She didn't deserve this. And there are people out there who loved her and who cared about her.
The RCMP's Major Crime Unit has not revealed how Melissa Price died, but confirmed that it is treating her death as a homicide and an isolated incident with no ongoing concern for public safety. All right, let's bring in CTV meteorologist Callan Mitchell on this Monday evening. You're going to talk a little bit about the weekend rain before we get to sunnier, warmer details.
Yeah, the melt has been on over the last couple of days here in the Maritimes, and that does include the contribution from the weekend rain, drizzle, and fog that we saw. Now, in most cases, rainfall reports only range from around a few to several millimeters. There were a few areas, though, that reported some rainfall totals a little bit higher than that. A couple spots in Prince Edward Island, for example, in Charlottetown, 11 millimeters of rain, in Bayfield at 12 millimeters, and around the Halifax area, around 8 to 14 millimeters of rain, moving up to the eastern shore of that province, Spanish Ship Bay at around 15 millimeters of rain, and a couple spots in Cape Breton as well reported some rainfall amounts of between 10 and 12 millimeters, including 11 millimeters at St. Anne's. Now, the melt continued today as we had some very mild temperatures around the region. We're going to have some partly cloudy conditions tonight. There's going to be some fog developing, especially around coastal areas, but we have a change in our weather coming up in the middle of this week. It's a mixture of snow, ice pellets, freezing rain, and rain coming into the Maritimes. Slow-moving low-pressure system, a couple of weather fronts from the west, and before it arrives, there's a northeast wind that brings our temperatures down, and that's why it's going to be such an icy mix for parts of the region. We already have some initial special weather statements issued for the province of New Brunswick, the north of New Brunswick, with the potential of seeing some accumulations in snow and ice pellets of around 15 to 25 centimeters, accompanied by some freezing rain. The freezing rain is expected to be more prolonged for other areas of New Brunswick, possibly parts of Prince Edward Island. This will be Wednesday afternoon to Thursday afternoon. The statement for central and southern areas of New Brunswick saying it could be about 10 to 18 hours of freezing rain. That, Todd, of course, increases the risk of seeing ice accretion. That's the collection of that ice on things such as tree branches and even some surfaces, parking lots, driveways. I will talk more about the impacts of that freezing rain a little bit later on.
All right, hang on to your shovels and the scraper. Winter not over yet. Okay, we'll see you later, Callan. Thank you. One man was killed and another seriously injured in two separate snowmobile crashes in Prince Edward Island. A 53-year-old Charlottetown man crashed into a tree on the Confederation Trail in Brackley. He died at the scene. Around noon Saturday, a 37-year-old man crashed his sled. He sustained life-threatening injuries. He was not wearing a helmet. Police believe speed was a factor in that incident. PEI Premier Rob Lance was in Ottawa today meeting with the Prime Minister.
A bit of a reset here, a reconnection, just to get back to some of the work that we've done. And as the Prime Minister said, we were able to accomplish some things together.
Since being elected as party leader and thus becoming Premier, Lance has reassumed his role as the chair of the Council of the Federation. Prime Minister Carney said today's meeting was meant to work on new ways to explore interprovincial trade. Other items on the agenda between the two men today were energy security and improving travel connections to the island. Online, Halifax City Council is considering asking the province to create a dangerous dog registry in response to a killing. You can read more on that at our website, ctvnewsatlantic.ca. After weeks of uncertainty around cuts to the provincial caregivers benefit, Nova Scotia's Minister of Long-Term Care confirmed anyone who receives a $400 a month subsidy will not be impacted by spending cuts. Families have been protesting at the legislature and asking for government to reconsider the 20% cut to the caregivers benefit grant after the province cut $2.5 million from the $12.7 million program. After 2 anxious weeks of uncertainty, the minister confirmed today the more than 3,000 people who rely on the grants will not see reductions. The minister says the cuts come from savings. The department says there are fewer people using the benefit and credit the creation of more long-term beds.
Well, there's been a lot of noise around the legislature, and getting all of the messaging out has been a bit of a challenge, so I'm really happy to have this opportunity to reassure all Nova Scotians who are getting the caregiver benefit that their benefits are not going to be impacted.
Last week, the province said it couldn't say what the impact of the caregivers grant reductions would be. The opposition NDP tabled a bill that would double caregivers benefit to $800 a month. The monthly rate was last increased 7 years ago. Groups opposed to provincial cuts in Nova Scotia are preparing for another demonstration in Halifax tomorrow. We wanted to hear from people in rural Nova Scotia about those budget cuts. CTV's Jonathan McGuinness visited Berwick in the Annapolis Valley to find out what people there are saying about it.
Berwick is known as the apple capital of Nova Scotia. The town of just under 2,500 sits an hour or so outside of Halifax. And like most small towns,
here's your latte, my dear.
The local coffee shop is a busy place. Conversation often includes politics.
They talk about how the government spends their money, things that they don't like.
With a deficit well in excess of $1 billion, the Tim Houston government says it is focused on what it calls core services, like health and education. While not every cut will hit Berwick directly, many folks here feel chopping $130 million from programs is short-sighted.
I understand the need for austerity. I understand we don't want to run deficits, but these cuts seem very mean-spirited to me.
To rein in spending, the province is cutting a long list of grants and scholarships to the arts, recreation, and other things.
I'm a retired educator, so I really deplore the cuts to the African Nova Scotia assistance for students. That really affects me, as well as any cuts that affect Mi'kmaq students.
The cutting of the caregiver's benefit is another sore point for some.
Vulnerable people like disabilities and that, I feel bad for their families who have gotten used to that. It must be very difficult.
Kind of an herbal tea.
Janice Foote says she knew something was brewing when the province took away the tolls on the Halifax bridges and reduced the HST.
We wondered what it was going to give, because you can't just cut things like that and then expect the money to miraculously appear.
The North Mountain Coffee Company serves up the daily brew and the buzz around the town. Not surprising, perhaps, talk of the budget is as hot as the coffee. And Todd, despite protests, the province seems to be moving forward with these cuts. As we know, the budget has yet to be approved, but people here in Berwick say with Tim Houston owning a majority government, that's really just a formality. Todd.
All right, John, thank you for that. In Berwick this evening. On this Commonwealth Day, you can add Canada to the growing list of member countries insisting Andrew Mountbatten Windsor be removed from the line of royal succession. A new survey indicates there's a growing desire for Canada to cut ties altogether with the monarchy. CTV's Ryan McDonald has the numbers.
Talk to people in downtown Sydney, and people's opinions weren't too favorable about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the former Duke of York.
It's a disgrace to his family and everybody. Yeah, definitely.
According to a new Angus Reid poll, more than 80% of Canadians surveyed support removing Andrew from the line of succession to the throne after his arrest last month and the fallout of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Over the weekend, the Prime Minister added his voice to that chorus.
His actions, which are deplorable and have caused him to be stripped of his royal titles, certainly merit, if that's the word, necessitate is a better word, his removal from the line of succession.
The poll also found that nearly half of those surveyed would prefer the end of Canada's constitutional monarchy and feel the royals simply are not relevant.
When there's real negativity about a certain royal, like now, then you see an uptick in public opinion.
This retired political scientist and author of a book about the royal family says people's feelings about the monarchy often change. He says there was an uptick in support following the king's visit to our country and speech from the throne less than a year ago.
Here's the king in Canada speaking to an international audience, and certainly speaking to you-know-who down in the White House, who you-know-who admires the British monarchy. So again, this was Canadians loved this.
David Johnson adds it would take a constitutional amendment to abolish the monarchy in Canada, so he doesn't think they are going anywhere, an idea that people we spoke with seem okay about.
I'm glad that we are part of the monarchy and the British parliamentary system. It's a better system than being a republic like the States.
I mean, just something we've always been part of for many, many decades. I think, why drop it now?
Ryan McDonald, CTV News.
This is going to be the web poll tonight. We are asking, should Andrew Mountbatten Windsor be removed from the royal family's line of succession? And your options are yes, he's embroiled in too much controversy. No, it's too complicated to do so. Or only if he's convicted of a crime. The three options will come up here in a second. We will take a break. We'll step aside now. You can vote at the website, of course, ctvnewsatlantic.ca. When we return, the latest from Iran.
The war with Iran now entering its 10th day, and the United States now giving the identity of the 7th American service member killed in that conflict. I'm Olivia Rubin from Washington, D.C. with all of those details coming up.
Strikes are continuing around the Middle East today as the war with Iran stretches into day 10. And the Pentagon has identified the 7th U.S. service member killed in the war. ABC's Olivia Rubin with the latest.
U.S. and Israeli airstrikes continuing to pound Iran. These airstrikes on an airbase captured by a passing vehicle in videos circulating online. Today, the Pentagon identifying the 7th U.S. service member killed in Operation Epic Fury, 26-year-old Sergeant Benjamin Pennington from Kentucky. Officials say Pennington was wounded on March 1st during an Iranian attack on a U.S. military base in Saudi Arabia, an attack that wasn't previously disclosed by U.S. Central Command.
If you are the praying type, and I certainly am, I hope you'll spare a prayer for the 6 souls that we lost, for the 7th soul who will be coming home tonight, and for all of their families.
But President Trump vowing to continue the fight.
We've decimated their whole evil empire. It'll continue, I'm sure, for a little while.
The big question now, will President Trump send in U.S. troops on the ground? In a new interview with the New York Post, the president saying he's nowhere near a decision, indicating there is still much to go in this conflict. Overseas, Iranian state media reporting the son of the assassinated Ayatollah Khamenei has been chosen to succeed him, despite President Trump's demand for unconditional surrender and to be involved in choosing the next leader. Supporters of that new leader today gathering in the streets of Tehran to celebrate. Israel, though, saying the new leader is a target.
I think we are all seeing right now the threat that this clerical regime poses to the region and to the world. They are trying to hold the world hostage.
Meanwhile, the U.S. says it's intercepted encrypted communications believed to be from Iran, which may serve as an operational trigger for sleeper assets outside the country. The government now warning law enforcement to increase monitoring of suspicious radioactivity, though right now it says there is no operational threat tied to a specific location. Olivia Rubin, ABC News, Washington.
How long will the clear skies and mild temperatures last? We'll ask Kalen Mitchell when he returns with the full maritime forecast after this.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's great to get out.
It feels really good.
Yeah, get that vitamin D from the sun. It's awesome.
Go for a walk with friends.
Yeah.
It's a great day. I walk the lake every day, do 8 to 10K, even when it's minus 23, but today just puts that extra spring in your step.
Spring in your step, indeed. Kaylin, we're quick to run out and talk to folks when the weather's bad. So we thought, well, let's do a turn here and go out and talk to folks when the weather is lovely. And it was certainly that today in Metro Halifax. Anyway, some rave reviews from people who are out enjoying the sunshine.
Yeah.
And those warm temperatures, hoping there is more to come.
Well, there is.
Okay, good. All right.
So as a meteorologist, I love most types of weather, including the type of weather that a lot of people enjoyed out there today, some sunshine, some milder temperatures. There is one type of weather, though, that I do not particularly enjoy, and that is freezing rain.
Yeah.
It is miserable to be out in, it is treacherous, and it is very difficult to forecast. And we have some coming up through the middle part of this week, Wednesday into Thursday. So we're going to start off by talking about that next weather system. And this is one of those weather systems that we often get to in the springtime. It's kind of a little bit of a layered cake as far as precipitation goes. Right up in the north of New Brunswick, you see where the grays are shading in. That is the potential of seeing some snow and some ice pelt accumulation that could be 15 centimeters or more. But then you can see just to the south of that, through much of the rest of New Brunswick, even in parts of Prince Edward Island, and a risk for some northern eastern areas of Nova Scotia, some ice pellets, an extended period of freezing rain is possible. Other areas of Nova Scotia, away from the north and the east and more towards the Atlantic coastline, are likely to have temperatures mild enough that as this weather system moves through, it is mostly going to be rain. And remember, this is a Wednesday into Thursday weather event for a good portion of the Maritimes. We saw some special weather statements already in effect for areas of New Brunswick. So I want to talk a little bit more specifically about the risk of freezing rain with this weather system. So we're going to take a look at an outlook here for the region. I'll step out of the way. And you can see I've got three colors there on that map of the Maritimes. The yellow, that would be where it would be a lighter freezing rain, a risk of a lighter freezing rain, up to around 5 millimeters of ice accretion. That's a collection of ice. And that would be an icy glaze. It would be enough to create some slippery surfaces. Now, the area highlighted in through the orange, which you can see is for a larger portion of New Brunswick and possibly western parts of Prince Edward Island, that might be 5 to 10 millimeters of ice accretion. And that's a little bit more impactful because that can add weight onto things such as tree branches, which can become bowed or in some cases snap. And then when those make contact with something like power lines, then you can get some isolated power outages. Now, 10 millimeters or more of ice accretion, and can't be completely ruled out yet for a few spots in central or western areas of New Brunswick. That's more serious. That creates very hazardous travel conditions. And that could be enough weight to actually bow entire trees down. We've seen that in ice storms in the past, and that creates a higher risk of seeing some power outages. So the risk right now for the most impactful freezing rain from this weather system still looks like it's going to be lined up through northern, central areas of New Brunswick, possibly western parts of Prince Edward Island. But this one is a mix, so please keep on top of your forecast, making our way through the middle part of this week. In the meantime, though, weather conditions out there for tonight, fairly calm for the region. There's a few clouds drifting through. There'll be some fog developing tonight. The fog will be thickest, most widespread around the Bay of Fundy coastline in New Brunswick and parts of the Atlantic coastline of Nova Scotia. So first thing tomorrow morning, just be aware that your visibility could be reduced in some areas. That fog will dissipate or retreat off the coast as we make our way from the morning into the afternoon. Sun is shining through a good portion of the Maritimes. Temperatures mild to warm. A little bit of a mix of sun and cloud up around northern areas of New Brunswick and a low chance of an isolated shower or two. Winds in the forecast for tonight and for tomorrow will be out of the southwest, but they actually get lighter for tomorrow, sustained for most of the Maritimes between around 10 and 20 kilometers per hour. Low temperatures in the forecast for tonight, they're cool. Most of the lows will fall down to around the low to mid single digits. But again, for tomorrow, a few communities in the north of New Brunswick will have some high temperatures, sure, around 6-7 degrees. But as you start to move a little bit further towards the south, those temperatures really pop up into the low to mid-teens. 14 degrees for Miramichi, 11 for Perth Andover for tomorrow. We've got 15 for Fredericton, 16 at St. Stephen in the forecast, 12 for St. John, and 16 degrees for Moncton in the southeast. Prince Edward Island tomorrow with high temperatures between 10 and 13 degrees and seeing a fair amount of sunshine. And areas away from the Atlantic coastline of Nova Scotia for tomorrow as well, fairly sunny. High temperatures, high single digits, low teens in Cape Breton. We're on the mid-teens for the north shore of Nova Scotia, 7 to 11 degrees for the eastern shore. Winds a little bit more on shore off the Atlantic waters. 12 for the city centers, Halifax and Dartmouth for tomorrow, 13 for Truro, 10 at around Amherst and Parsboro. Warm for the Annapolis Valley, 16 degrees in the forecast for Kentville, Middleton, 13 at Digby, and on the south shore of Nova Scotia, coastal areas between 9 and 12 degrees. But again, you could have a little bit of marine cloud or marine fog that hugs the coastline throughout the day. Taking a look at the extended forecast then for New Brunswick. So there's that icy mix coming through Wednesday into Thursday. Following in behind it, temperatures a little bit chillier for the end of the week on Friday, the mix of sun and cloud. Snow possible at the start of the weekend on Saturday. There's your typical March swings there in the forecast over the next several days. A little bit more snow is possible Sunday night, leading into a mixture of snow and rain on Monday of next week. And for Nova Scotia in the outlook again, there will be a risk of some freezing rain for northern eastern parts of the province Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Other parts of Nova Scotia seeing some rain, drizzle, and fog. Some flurries may be around for Friday morning, followed by a mixture of snow and rain being possible for the start of the weekend. Cloudy periods on Sunday, and next Monday, rain possible. And for Prince Edward Island, the outlook, watching for that icy mix of weather coming in Wednesday into Thursday morning for temperatures warm up enough to turn the last of it over to rain. It's a mix of sun and cloud for Friday, a mixture of snow and rain possible on Saturday, back to a mix of sun and cloud on Sunday. Rain possible on Monday of next week. It's going to be busy here in the Weather Center over the next several days.
Yes, you will be busy. Thank you for that, Kalen. We'll see you at the end of the show. Next, we're going to talk about some sobering new numbers that show just how much Canadians are drinking, or not drinking, as the case may be. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
With Aaron and Peter.
What did you learn way too late in life? Tomorrow at 7.
And get on Aaron and Peter's payroll. All you have to do is register at move100halifax.ca.
Well, Canadians are increasingly turning away from the bottles. Numbers from Stats Canada shows alcohol sales have dropped for the 4th year in a row. Rod Phillips is a professor of history with a specialty in this area. He's at Carleton University in Ottawa, and it's nice to see you this evening.
Yeah, good to see you too, Todd.
It's been suspected for some time. Stats Canada numbers back this up. Canadians are drinking less alcohol, beer, wine, spirits, all the rest, down 1.6%. Is that a significant drop?
Yeah, I think it is a significant drop because it's the sort of 4th year in a row that alcohol consumption has been falling. So, you know, this could be the beginning of a longer-term trend.
What generation, or is there a generation that's leading the charge on this? We know we're a graying population, but who's really carrying the flag for this?
Yeah, well, I can't speak for you, but certainly people around me drink a lot more than younger people are today, and I think it's younger people who are who are drinking less. The Gen Z, the Gen Z generation seems to have turned away from alcohol in a way that people like me didn't when we were their age.
Yeah, a lot of sales now for things like non-alcoholic beverages.
Yeah, I mean, I think you see a real growth in the sale of non-alcoholic or de-alcoholized wine, beer, and non-alcoholic cocktails. That's a lot of growth there, and you know, they're quite expensive as well. You find that de-alcoholized wine, for example, is just about as expensive as wine with alcohol, just because the process is more complicated.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. We've had a high-profile craft brewery close here on the East Coast, and some others have as well. There's a lot of lobbying against the annual federal excise tax on alcohol. How much can price explain some of the drop?
Yeah, I think price is certainly involved. I mean, we have, you know, what everyone calls an affordability crisis. And if you're looking to cut back on expenditures, then you can't really cut back on rent, transportation. You don't want to cut back on food. So you're looking for areas that are discretionary, that aren't really essential. So you can cut back on alcohol. It's a very obvious place to go. And that either means, you know, drinking less or choosing alcohol that's less expensive than you were choosing before. So cheaper bottles of wine maybe, or simply less wine. So affordability is important.
Yeah.
But again, bearing in mind that these non-alcoholic beverages are quite expensive, and you know, sales of those are going up. I'm not sure that, you know, affordability in itself is enough of an explanation.
And I think it's more attitudes around drinking as a whole.
I think so, and I think younger people, especially, are much more receptive to the warnings about the health risks with alcohol. I mean, they've been being made for quite some time now. I mean, for hundreds of years, thousands of years, alcohol was thought to be okay, was actually good for you. But that changed in the last 50 years or so. And, now, the World Health Organization and Health Canada are basically saying, don't drink. If you can, don't drink at all. And if you're drinking, then drink less. And I think younger people have taken that on board, possibly because, they've got shorter drinking careers than people like me. I mean, people like me who have been, drinking at a certain level for decades find it much more difficult to reduce.
All right. Okay. That's interesting. What about cannabis? We've certainly seen a dramatic uptick in the sales. Could it be just a matter of swapping one vice for another?
Well, it could be. I don't think we know enough about the consumption patterns. Certainly, alcohol is going down, cannabis consumption is going up, and it's sort of easy to say, well, people are switching from alcohol to cannabis products, and that may be true. But I suspect that people who drink alcohol also consume cannabis in various ways. So it could be a shift in the mix. But cannabis is also not cheap. So it's a question of explaining the difference. And I suppose the difference is that there are known harms associated with alcohol, and there's still a big debate about the health effects of cannabis.
Well, it certainly is a trend. 4 years now. You got to assume that's a trend, and this will probably continue. Rod Phillips, professor at Carleton, thank you very much for your time and sharing your insight tonight.
No, you're very welcome.
We'll take a time out. We'll be back with much more of your show after this. In health headlines tonight, new research that shows the Earth might be warming at a rate higher than originally thought. CTV's Amanda Debison has that and more.
The report finds that if this accelerated rate continues, the world will reach critical warming levels before 2030. At that level, researchers say the impacts of climate change will outpace the ability of humans and nature to adapt. The study was published in the journal Geophysical Research Letters. Finally, as much of Canada observes a change to daylight time, some experts are reminding people of the health risks associated with it. York University biology professor Patricia Lankin-Thomas says the annual jump to daylight time has been known to lead to increases in car accidents, heart attacks, and stroke. This year marks the last time BC observes a time change, with the province set to remain on daylight time going forward. Meantime, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says her government will consult on doing away with twice-a-year changes to the clock. With Health and Medical News, I'm Amanda Debison for the Lifeline.
Sorry about that, folks. Something happened there in the Lifeline. We'll get it fixed for tomorrow night. We're on the scene now, and it was a celebration of Prince Edward Island Music Saturday night in Summerside, where the Music PEI Awards were presented. The weekend event celebrated success stories and the work it takes to get there. CTV's Maria Saru on the challenges it takes to hit the high notes.
2, 3, 4. Drums kickstart soundcheck before the fiddle comes in. PEI's Richard Wood has toured the world with his fiery brand of Celtic music, making this his full-time job. But the musician says not everyone from the island is as lucky.
There's an awful lot of musicians that would have to move away, and you hear the stories all the time, moving to Toronto or they move to New York or Halifax.
Singer-songwriter Logan Richard, also from PEI, says some seasons are busier than others, but the highs are louder than the lows.
Lean into the fact that it is a small town. There's people that do it full-time that you can reach out to and that you can ask questions to. I'm also a producer and a guitar player for hire, so I'm able to do a few different things that kind of helps keep the ship floating.
Music PEI offers local artists financial help through investment programs and grants. For example, the nonprofit's Golden Ticket program supports 4 winners with everything from producing singles to sales targets.
Nowadays, there's so many other ways to make money in music and to do it for a living, so things like TV and film placements and working in recorded music more than touring.
Back on stage, Wood says it's best for emerging artists not to rely entirely on streaming, instead to book gigs and give it their all.
The old saying is true. You really don't know who's in the audience.
Whether 2 people or 200,000 are in the crowd, the musicians say it's about showing up despite the challenges. Maria Sru, CTV News, Summerside, Prince Edward Island.
Thank you, Maria. And there was some recognition for Cape Breton's finest today. The Music Industry Hall of Fame announced this year's list of inductees. Some of the biggest names in music from the island, performers who helped shape and promote Cape Breton music, were named. The lineup includes the late fiddler Buddy McMaster, Bill McNeil, music director for The Coast 89.7, singer-songwriter Gordie Sampson, and Alistair McGillivray, known for penning the song for the Myra. An induction concert takes center stage at Center 200 in June. We'll go to break with what's on CTV tonight. What a crazy day in the stocks today. A turnaround this afternoon for the markets. The Dow finally closed the day up 239 points, and the price of oil also took a turn late in the day. BNN Bloomberg's Marilla Fernandez has those details.
The price of oil whipsawed today on events related to the Middle East conflict. The U.S. president is telling CBS News the war against Iran is very complete. That put downward pressure on the price of oil, which had spiked close to $120 U.S. a barrel on the weekend, on news that Gulf oil producers are trimming production because they've run out of room to store it. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is down to $73.62. West Texas Intermediate is down almost $4 to $86.99. Western Canadian Select up over $8 to $73.59. And the TSX gained 105 points today to end the day at 33,189. Those are your business headlines. I'm Marilla Fernandez.
Kayla Mitchell is outside in the sunshine.
Yes.
Haven't been able to say that for months.
I know, because of the time change this past weekend. I do get to stand out here in just a little bit of daylight. It's breezy, as you can hear. Temperatures, though, not too bad for this far into the month of March. Let's take a look at our viewer picture for tonight. This is a great one. This is coming in from Vernon Seeley, who at 85 years young made the trek all the way to the top of Mount Carlton in New Brunswick. Not the easiest trek, because you can't take a snowmobile all the way up. You have to actually walk on foot for a fair bit of the distance as well. But look at that view. Totally worth it. Thank you so much for sharing the picture with us, Vernon. Now, he's actually from Sussex, so Sussex for tomorrow can expect a very nice day. After a little bit of fog dissipates in the morning, mostly sunny, and high temperature coming up to near 16 degrees. Day planner for tomorrow across the Maritime region. There will be some foggy areas around first thing in the morning, especially around parts of the coast. Morning temperatures mostly around the low to mid single digits. And then for the afternoon, it'll be mostly sunny to a mix of sun and cloud. Low chance of a couple isolated showers drifting through the north of New Brunswick. The temperatures tomorrow, though, mild to warm, at least for March standards. A lot of high temperatures away from the coast coming up towards the low to mid-teens. Don't forget, after that, though, Wednesday into Thursday, we do have that mixture of snow, ice pellets, freezing rain, and rain that's going to be making its way into and across the region. Let's find out what's coming up on Your Morning Atlantic.
Tuesday on Your Morning Atlantic, the pain at the pumps.
The war in the Middle East has sent gas and diesel prices skyrocketing. We'll look at what we can expect in the coming weeks.
Start your morning with us Tuesday on Your Morning Atlantic on CTV2 and Crave.
And finally for us on this Monday evening, the planned IndyCar race through Washington, D.C., celebrating America's 250th anniversary, has an official route. Organizers of the Freedom 250 Grand Prix unveiled the route, a race logo, and an America 250 IndyCar at an event today. The circuit will feature a 7-turn layout with drivers speeding around the National Mall, the Washington Monument, the U.S. Capitol. The road race's chairman and of the Grand Prix says it will make American and auto racing history, and that race is set for the weekend of August 21st. That is our look at our day here at home. Bruce Frisco will be here at 11:30. The website and the app have updates. I'm Todd Battis. Hope to see you tomorrow. Good night.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast. Watch live on Crave.